Welcome back, everybody, to Agree or Die podcast. We got two dudes, no Yuri this time. We got Eric Hart, we got Adam Malone, together for the first time
on the podcast. Definitely
really?
On the podcast.
Definitely, yeah. We never had no Yuri, three dudes before.
Oh, well, this combination, sure.
So this is a unique combination. Hopefully, you guys will find it appealing.
So I used to know Eric Hart. What I'm wondering, do you remember how I addressed you? No. I'm not sure. Did I call you Eric or Hart or what?
I don't remember at all.
I think we only had one class ever together, that video production one.
Oh, you were in that, weren't you?
I was in that.
God.
I think we had it together once, and I cannot remember how I addressed you. So
I totally forgot about that.
Do you have?
I forgot that you were in there. I remember that class. Noah was in that with us.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so what should I call you, Eric or Hart?
Oof.
Or Eric Hart.
Full name? And I don't. Yeah.
I'll just see what
you do. Whatever works. I'm always open to any.
Hart, and it's fine. Everyone in the podcast in the comments calls him Hart, so I think we're okay.
Okay, I'll try.
So you guys got to call him Hart if you ever see him. So we've got a lot of fresh topics. You know what? I got no police murder stories this session. I didn't see any.
Really?
Not to say that it didn't happen.
I believe some happened.
I'm sure there's at least a couple murders, but hey, if I didn't hear about them, they weren't important enough. So, let's talk about our boy Jared from Subway, who is a pedophile and child pornographer. Who knew? Who knew about that?
Not many people, probably.
Apparently one lady for about 10 years while they were investigating the guy. The FBI had a long investigation.
Really?
Did you read this? No. There was a reporter that, I don't know, 6 years ago, maybe even longer, somewhere in Florida, but she'd do these things on the Charity or on Subway or something, and she was alongside Jared, and this is like part of the big story is that like he would say things to her that would sound really, really inappropriate. Like he'd almost pull like the Matthew McConaughey in Dazed and Confused? No. Is that the movie?
Yeah.
You know, old guy looking at the high school girls, and he'd say something like, "Oh, that was middle school. I really like something or other about it," and it was just she just kept getting put off by it. And then she brought her concerns, I think, to the FBI, who I think were already 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago already working on this deal. It wasn't just like, this spring we caught this other guy related, and it just so happened to be Jared was involved too. This was a long sting. She wore a wire for sure, a couple of years.
How about that?
It's incredible. Did you also know Jared ran a porn rental service out of his dorm room in college?
No. Why would he? We need Jared to do that.
Well, I mean, this was college, and
this is before he was famous.
This is before.
But I mean, why would you need somebody you can rent porn on your own? I guess what I'm saying.
Well, Here's the thing: when you're away at college, you can go to the video store back in the day, if you remember, and there's the back room, and you got to kind of walk back there.
Yeah.
And everybody goes, "Oh, there goes that guy," back in the back.
Okay.
But here's the thing. Apparently, he had a selection of about like 400 VHSs.
So he had a bigger selection than
most
stores.
He had a huge selection, and he only charged $1.
Wow, interesting how you make that work. How do you get them back?
I would totally go to, if I was in college and there wasn't the internet, I'd rather go to a dude's dorm room than this video store.
I wonder how he got them back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kept a ledger?
Yeah, I guess. You got to have like a big dude, like a couple of goons, like Mash and Ditch, backing you up. Go collect when you.
That was back when he was.
He used to be the big goon.
He was the big guy.
Was he?
Well,
yeah, I guess he was big.
Yeah,
300 pounds probably. Yeah.
Wow, how about that? So, what do we think about this? This whole thing? They pled guilty, right? What is that? We were talking about this at work, and the question was, what does it mean that he pled guilty? Like, does it get him off the hook at all? Is it better or worse than him? I mean, it's not worse, but is it better than him? Does it matter?
I think they get to skip a trial. I think he just gets sentenced then, and usually they'll offer a lot, like a pretty large percentage of. I wish Yuri was here. He can fact check me on this one.
Right.
But of criminal prosecutions never go to trial; they just make a deal.
Right.
A lot of people think that's bad because then, it's all being done in complete secrecy, and people are maybe getting off the hook or not or something like this. But that's what I think that means. I think he just will get sentenced, and they probably made a deal. They skip the trial. They save taxpayers' money.
Yuri or no Yuri, I watched the entirety of The Good Wife, so I'm essentially a lawyer. And I know that they make a lot of deals, and they go to make deals. And so they say, you can take a deal for this much, or go to trial for potentially like 10 times more. Mm-hmm. And then I bet when you're like charged with child pornography, and it looks like you're down, the jury is not going to be sympathetic.
No,
Yeah, probably.
So the jury's probably not going to go his way.
There's not a lot of excuses or like twistable alibis to kind of to cast doubt. It's usually, well, here's the it's pretty direct. Here's the evidence we found. Here are this physical pictures. Here's the internet. Here's the email he sent and signed with his own name and a picture of himself. Like things on the computer are pretty. You can think like, well, somebody logged on, somebody hacked me, and it's like those are about the only things you can say. There's no other excuse. There's no other. I wasn't at home. There was.
I guess that would have to be his defense, I guess.
So there's
he didn't do it.
Consistently got hacked.
There's no the glove.
Some hacker used his computer for it. And his charity president was in on it too. That's weird.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's where he got the stuff from.
These two dudes found each other and they opened a charity together and started fucking getting weird.
I think they probably knew each other prior, and then when he started his charity, he just said, "Hey, buddy," and I think that was a relationship that was before the charity, and then
pretty nutty. So we're all pretty in agreement on this being.
Well, I mean, I'm against him.
Pretty bad,
I guess. I'm against child pornography.
Now I don't actually know the facts on this. Let me try to fact check it. Child pornography was legal in Japan for a long time.
Really?
Like regular child pornography? Because I know the animated, the cartoon, like the comic books or something.
I'm looking it up right now. I remember Japan finally banned child pornography. Time magazine. Let's see when this happened. I feel like it's like 2014. This article came out. Japan's parliament passed a bill on Wednesday to ban possession of child pornography under the law. Be quiet here. What am I looking at here? Despite banning the production and distribution of child pornography in 1999, Japan is the last organization for blah 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 to make possession a punishable offense. So they just banned production in 1999 and distribution.
But it still they have that exception for the explicit anime and manga featuring children.
Yeah, that's cartoons.
Yeah.
But that's interesting because
very interesting.
Of how well, I mean, Japan is essentially a fine country. They're doing okay.
Mm-hmm.
They're a first world country. They're doing fine. Child pornography was completely just fine up until the 1999. Which how old were we then? I'm thinking now.
We were like
middle
02, just sophomores.
Just going in high school or second year.
So that's when they made it illegal to produce it, and then you can still have it totally fine, like the stuff you collected in your life. You could just have it.
You're just grandfathered.
Your grandfathered in having it, and. I mean, I don't agree with child pornography, and it's kind of hard to come off any other way when you're saying this. But in Japan, it was like a lot of it is it's cultural to say that it's such a horrible thing to happen to you. Like if it's cultural that it's a normal thing to happen to you, and it's like it shouldn't hurt you, then you don't get hurt by it. You know what I'm saying?
So you're saying if pornographic pictures of children was a cultural thing, you're making the argument that it might not be harmful?
I'm saying it would not be psychologically harmful without the stigma that comes with it that makes it psychologically harmful. That's what I'm saying.
I would guess that's not. I would guess I'd lean strongly against that.
I don't know if I agree. Are you framing what they think, or are you suggesting?
If you go back to the Roman times,
I don't want to get you wrong on what you're saying.
I'm not for it, but I mean, children can't give proper consent. I agree with that completely. So adults shouldn't take advantage of children. I think there's something wrong there.
Well, it's gonna be equally traumatic whether it's.
Well, I think the trauma comes from cultural stigma.
Like when people go, "Hey, that happened to you, and that was wrong."
Yes, I think that's what's going on there. I think it is.
I think that the time it happens, it's very traumatic.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I can't speak to it because I was never part of it or anything. So
here's my fucked up hypothetical. I don't believe I've ever asked on the podcast.
Love it.
Let's say when I was like a kid, 10 years old, I took explicit naked pictures of myself. Is possessing those illegal?
Wow.
And what if I kept them until I was an adult?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, distribution is legal. What if I kept them of myself and I took them myself? Would that be legal or not?
That's totally legal because I feel like
is it?
It's like when parents have pictures.
But they're not explicit. Those aren't, I'm talking like,
When they
what
have
if
the kids in the
I was
bathtub.
10, I took sexually explicit pictures of myself.
Jerking off, whatever.
Doing all sorts of stuff, and I kept them, and now I still possess them. Is it illegal? I mean, probably, I would guess.
I believe if you distributed those, it's illegal.
I think possession is illegal, and I think the second I have them, it's illegal. I'm committing a crime, even if right after.
Even if it's you.
I think so. Yeah, I would guess yes.
And you're saying because of like the sexting laws where kids, again, they're distributing them, but they do.
No, I think possession of child pornography is a crime. So I think that it would be a crime.
It's for sure a crime. Because the reason I know about the Japan thing at all is because I remember I was working at Caribou Coffee over at the U, and I read an article where a Japanese businessman was caught at the airport for something, and his laptop was full of child pornography in 2013 when we were in the U. No, what the fuck am I talking about? 2005 or 6.
Yeah.
And he got caught with a bunch of child pornography in his laptop, and the FBI was like fucking on it. But he was like, in Japan, it's fine to have it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry I didn't like wash my laptop before coming here, but these are totally legal images to have in where, you know. So there was an article I read. I'm like, it's just legal in Japan to like have child pornography? That surprised me a lot. But then I'm just thinking about it, you know, how much of it is a cultural thing, that it's traumatic because we say it's traumatic. You know? Only humans can have these feelings, you know, we make them. They're invented by us. Like my dog or cat, they don't get traumatized by their penises getting touched. You know what I mean? That doesn't affect them. They don't care. It's just another body part to them. Humans have a very special attachment to that kind of stuff. And then if you make it a cultural thing where this is, you know, something bad happened to you when you were a child. This is a terrible thing, and you should tell us about it. It gets kids in this thing, and then it festers.
I follow where
I think that's going on. I'm not from Japan,
I know.
But I mean, how long? It's just been fine there for such a long time. How many people in Japan have been, you know, like, what does it mean that it was legal to distribute? There must have been an industry for it, right? There must have been a whole production for child pornography. There must have been
little like parents with their like child actors.
I don't know how. I don't know how they did it. You know,
overbearing parents of like professional child pornography.
I mean, that is what I'm saying. I mean, it had to be. If it's legal there and people want it, they're for sure making it. Like production companies.
Competitive world of.
Well, I mean, it's just that's just a fact. You know, if it's legal and people want it, they're making it. They make the cartoons still right now, and the cartoons are just as inappropriate, but they're making those right now. You know, they made that rape video game that I read about a while ago. It was like you simulate rape in a video game, and that was like they were selling that on the store shelves. It's crazy.
I remember a baseball story. You remember you baseball? Well, you have a baseball hat on. Right?
I have a baseball hat.
Big baseball.
Hideki Matsui, Yankees outfielder guy.
Oh, yeah.
I read an article a long time ago when I used to follow baseball about the cultural difference of like porn. It was relaying a press conference where he was talking to Japanese media about his giant porn collection. Like, oh, I heard you have a lot of porn. He's like, oh yeah, you know, I've got thousands of DVD. Like totally nonchalant. And the point, the person who wrote this article, Aaron Gleeman, had a website I used to look at.
He also has a podcast now.
Yeah, he does. He's on. Yeah, he's popular now. But he was just pointing out how different. Like no professional athlete could be like, yeah, I have a giant porn collection. Like that would be just a scandal. I mean, everyone watches porn. However, you can't say you do.
Yeah.
Sure.
However, he was pointing out that in Japan, that was just fine, and that was just another normal question, like someone who likes to fish or something.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I'm saying here. You know, I mean,
I think it's.
I'm not defending it. I think there's an inappropriateness there.
You're saying that. I mean, to put it shortly,
Do it.
You're suggesting some of the trauma experienced by someone being forced to do child pornography is a cultural thing and not because of the act itself.
That's what I'm saying, yes.
Okay. I don't think that's true, but I don't know.
I mean, if there's abuse involved, then it's, you know, abusive.
But I feel like that's the abuse.
Well, we call it abuse. You know, we call it that because we decided that's abuse. But if you don't call it abuse, you call it normal behavior, then it's normal behavior. You know, like, if a child gets injured, then obviously that's troublesome. But emotional damage, I think, is something, a lot of that is psychological, obviously. And that psychological damage comes from the societal perception of what happened, that was like how severe it was, whether it was wrong or right. You know, then that's how it is. So I think that there's, you know, I mean, I'm not saying we should legalize it, not at all, but I just find it very interesting that a very progressive country had it completely fine for well into this decade, you know?
I just think the trauma comes from a majority of the victims, and I can't quote a percentage, but I would assume the majority of the victims don't want to do it.
Well, sure.
Like, you know, I
But
don't
what
want to
if?
do this.
Well, what if they do want to do it?
But
at
no,
the time.
No, I'm not.
Well, they can't give consent. I know you're saying that.
Let's
But
not get into this. I mean, the majority. Just because a few go, hey, I got no problem. Just because a black guy, no problem with the Confederate flag. It doesn't mean that becomes the focal point or the main argument.
I think
the thing is here is that if they don't want to do it, there's no option, and that becomes mentally and emotionally scarring because just like anything of that nature, just like when you probably still remember if your siblings picked on you, and hung you over the balcony by your ankles or something, and you remember those things where you were out of control of the situation, and that was frustrating, and that can be damaging in a lot of ways, and especially I think when it's such a vulnerable.
Well, yeah, I mean, but you're describing the distinction between play fighting and real fighting, where one you're in on and one you're against, and those are two different behaviors. If sex is not considered a taboo behavior, then it's the same thing. Either you're having fun or you're being abusive. And there's still a distinction there if you don't automatically consider that whole thing abuse. And we consider the whole thing abuse, so we package the whole thing as abuse. But it doesn't have to be that way.
I think the experience of the kids as it is.
You're such a shock jock. I can't believe you're like.
Hey, if we lived in Japan 15 years ago, this conversation wouldn't be taking place.
I think if you knew more about the actual emotional reactions of the children after a traumatic event like this and the signs that they exhibit before someone tells them that, hey, that was wrong. I think that because there's a reason people find out, and it's not just because somebody catches the adult. I think there's other ways where people notice changes.
You might be right, but you might not be right.
But since you haven't looked into this, you have no clue.
Well, I don't have any clue other than a modern nation, took forever.
Sure. And I understand where you're going, but
from what I read about it, they only made the change because of American pressure. It wasn't even a natural move for them. America's like, you need to stop this now, and they're like, well, what's the big deal?
I think people, just because people aren't immediately speaking out, it doesn't mean that there are things that you don't always just want to blurt out and share that are, especially, who wants to just kind of go around and say, yeah, somebody, took my pants off and fondled me.
Well, in America, you definitely can't talk about that, but it's a different culture.
I'm just
saying.
Asking,
you're saying
you're kind of saying people would say if it was shitty when they're 12, they just come out and start telling people, hey, this sucks. I mean, I just think that's...
no, he's saying there's no absolute trauma, kind of.
I'm saying,
right? You're saying there's no absolute trauma.
You're not guaranteed trauma.
The trauma you feel depends on the society that you are in.
Right, absolutely right.
I think there is an absolute trauma. I think there is a fuzzy line. I think in this case, it probably is an absolute trauma that it's always going to be bad for someone.
And I don't think you can never say... I mean, I don't want to play the game, but you can never say 100%. Yeah, there might be some kid who... oh, that was fun, or whatever. But that I don't think that's relevant for the overall. I don't think that just excuses everybody else from having a shitty time if they're abused.
Will this change your opinion of Subway? Will you go to Subway?
This has nothing to do with Subway for me. Oh, you can get this. So this lady, one of these ladies.
We're talking about it's about the Jared guy though.
Yeah, the Jared guy.
Will you go or not? Will you go less frequently to Subway because of this?
No.
Do you like Subway?
Yes.
Does he own Subway stock or something? Does he? I mean, he's a spokesperson, but he's not a manager, owner.
I have no idea.
He's just a spokesperson of Subway.
Yeah, I guess so.
Right.
He's a mascot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't know. If they knew that, they would have put him away.
Yeah.
Subway would have fired him real quick. I mean, I don't go to Subway that often anymore anyway, but this doesn't affect my view of Subway now, I would say.
One of the stories,
if they knew, they would, unless they find out that they knew the whole time, then
that's a problem. Subway. Well, here's the thing: is one of the ladies, another reporter was saying that she knew Jared, and he on multiple occasions suggested she set up like secret video cameras, like monitoring cameras in her kids' rooms, like back when that was a thing, like nanny cams and stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he suggested that she should set those up, and he could help her with it basically, and that he'd always bring it up. She said over and over, and that she should pick which kid she wants him to monitor or something like that. And it was this weird thing, but she said she told Subway about it 4 or 5 years ago. She said she told them, but she doesn't have a copy of her message or anything or any evidence that she told them, but she knows she did because she told them via the Subway website and like the comment form, those like online
feedback form,
basically just a text box that you put in. And she said, and then she goes, I never heard back from them, but I know I sent it. And then the article I read, they said, Subway has not responded for comment. And I just thought that's the dumbest thing I think I've ever heard. Because notifying Subway via the comments form, because this lady thinks that somehow her story, which is wild, is just going to go in and people are going to say, "Hey, whoa, this is a serious story."
Yeah, it's going to make it through the sifting of whatever.
If you ever work that job, and I've worked customer service, and you get messages coming through there, you got people who are psychotic. You ever
look at YouTube comments?
Look at Facebook. Look at the Target page. Look at people. So people are always constantly sending things in like, I found a finger in my chili, but I threw it away. But you should just give me money or I'll go to the press. It's like that's where your messages are like falling into people that just. She thinks it sounds like, wow, how could they avoid this?
She should have called the authorities probably.
Exactly. Well, and that was the thing is she was already. This is the FBI was already investigating. What's Subway going to do? Send their secret police out and figure this all out? So I think with that it was just like what did you expect? You're basically sending a wild story in to a place that gets wild stories all day long, and you can't. I don't think you can fault Subway for being like.
Yeah,
how do you say?
Unless Subway knew, then I mean we can't really be mad at Subway.
I don't think it's on them unless they themselves like had some sort of internal memos and stuff saying this is a problem. But
so the bottom line is don't have pictures of kids doing sexual things, and don't do that.
My thing is I don't get how they always talk about these like networks of all this stuff on the internet, and I know I guess it's hard to track certain people, but I don't get where these people how they meet each other.
Oh, I read about
online
that the dark net. Yeah, I read a pretty
before the dark. I just don't get like
before the dark net. They just used the internet then. Back when chat rooms were the Wild West.
I guess. I mean, that's surprising to me because I just thought who goes out and just be like, hey, you like kiddie porn? Like who just?
No, you don't. No, you go find.
You can't do that.
You go figure it out online. You go to the pedophile chat room and then you're safe there, and then you say that. Not you just ask a random person.
That's ridiculous. That's
well, it's like how you say how do you buy cocaine. You just go to like a guy and say I want cocaine.
But even the chat room, I feel like that's like walking down. It's like the law enforcement. I'm surprised that they wouldn't be all over that. I feel like that'd be so risky to deter it. But
they try, but the people.
That's clever.
It's always everything's always on the side of against law enforcement or someone trying to stop it, especially on computers. I mean, the hackers always have the advantage, or the people trying to hide always have the advantage.
But not everybody that's a pedophile is like a super hacker that can disguise their IP. So I'm surprised to find some of these people just like. I want to hear the stories of like their encounter. Like, how did you how did this Jared guy meet the other guy? Because I feel like it's littered with cops. But I don't know. It's always amazing to me that this interest can somehow this topic can be broached somewhere that people can form these networks. But maybe they all just go to Thailand and meet there. I don't know. But
no, they all talk on the internet.
They all talk
on things that aren't indexable or searchable by the regular internet.
Yeah,
other channels.
The Silk Road, man.
Silk Road.
Yeah,
I guess that's true. Silk Road.
So speaking of Target, you mentioned it for a second there. Another story from the modern news. Target has removed gender labels from their toys, children toys,
from their toy sections.
The toy section.
Toy aisles.
Now to specify, people misunderstand from what I've read on Facebook. Not all of their stores. There's still boys' clothes and girls' clothes.
Yeah.
It's only the toys now.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's not girls' toys. Here's all the dolls and Barbies and ovens. Mm-hmm. And then boys' toys. Here's all the G.I. Joes and footballs and sports things. Now it's just toys, and you can buy whatever you want for any kid. There are people who are upset by this. They're stupid. I mean, frankly, you have no reason to be upset. If you can't figure out what is a boy toy and what's a girl toy on your own, you probably can if you have a problem with this. You definitely know what the boy toys are.
Yep.
But if your kid just likes Barbies and he's a boy, and now he doesn't have to be embarrassed because he's shopping in the girls' aisle, I mean, it's quite simple. You know what I mean? It doesn't really make any sense.
I think even at a young age, and I think kids know this, even at a young age, I would have been embarrassed to be
shopping in the girls section.
Shopping for all the
because it's all pink and this is girls all over it, and then you just like the Barbies or the little pink cars they have. Yeah. I would love the pink Barbie cars.
Yet, I think the first daycare I was at, you're there with a bunch of 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, whatever. They had just toy boxes, right? And one of them was like a hamper, just like a hamper full of like Barbies, Barbie clothes, Kens, all that stuff. And so like you're playing with the other kids at the time where boys and girls get along because we're not different. We don't have to we don't have to be different. So like if you're all playing with Barbies, you're all doing your role play. You're all doing the Barbie play. There's no GI Joes, I don't think, at that place. So it was all, those are our figurines with the Barbies and the Kens. But yet that was fine, and nobody had a problem with it. Nobody thought it was weird. You just you're doing your little stuff with the dolls. But at the same time, like going to Target 3 years later, I'm not going to the Barbie aisle. I'm not going to,
right.
I have no problem with playing with Barbies, but I'm not going to go buy a Barbie set. It's weird. I'm a boy, blah, blah, blah. So I totally think that kids get it, and I totally think that removing it is a good idea, because I think that is something, if you want to talk about people telling people what should be negative to them, that's an instance of it. Because I don't think that, like I said, we had no problem playing with Barbies when I was first introduced to these toys. And yet a few years later, that like, well, boys aren't supposed to play with,
I think it's going to be really interesting to see 10, 20 years down the line what boys and girls differences are and how things change. Because, I mean, like you said, even when we were kids, which wasn't, it was kind of long ago, but I mean, it wasn't ancient. I mean, exactly, there's the boy section, the girl section. Like, you're not going to get a boy a Barbie, like that kind of stuff. Like, it's illegal for 2 men to get married. Now, there's a whole, starting now, and even kids who are a little older, this is now like normal. So I wonder I wonder how much these perceived gender differences will disappear over time, and how many boys really do like Barbies, how many girls really do like the traditional boy gun, and that kind of stuff. I think it'll be really strange. I think it'll be even if we think we're very progressive, I bet when we're old we're gonna have problems with something that we can't think of. Like, God, no. We're going to be curmudgeon-y about something, I think.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know what it is.
What girl-themed toy growing up did you wish you had? Or were you envious?
Ovens, man. Easy bake ovens.
Easy bake
All
ovens.
those ovens. Fucking sweet. You put things in there, they really get cooked. Little Play-Dohs and stuff.
You could eat them?
I don't remember eating them ever.
Couldn't you get? You could bake real cookies.
Yeah,
right?
you actually bake real stuff.
Yeah.
You could. I don't remember eating them.
I'm so masculine. There's nothing that appeals
There's
to me
nothing?
from the women. No, I'm just so masculine.
I thought at first I'd have like multiple things, and then I tried to look back at 80s, 90s toys and see like what there was. And there's like so many like girly dolls and stuff that I'm like that I wasn't
Malone's
interested.
sister had some dolls. We fucking had a great time with them.
But I saw one thing that I was always jealous of.
What?
It was probably a shitty game. Like if you really played it, it was probably terrible. It was probably no fun. But the features involved made me think like that looks fun as heck. And it was like this like Mall Madness or something.
Video game or
no? It was a board game. It was called Mall Madness, but it had like a talking thing in it, and you had credit cards that you'd like slide in, and you could buy stuff.
I think I almost remember the commercial for this.
And it was like the thing about it was like it wasn't so much like the point of the game, like, oh hey, let's go shopping. It was a matter of like they have a talking thing in their game, and the credit cards work, and like it was the features that I was like, I want. Like I liked things with like the features. I like the He-Man talk, the microphone talking, Skeletor cast, all that stuff. So I was always like jealous that like this game had all these cool features, and I'm like, I really want to play that and see what it's like.
You couldn't though,
but you can't.
It's for girls.
It is for girls.
Yeah. Malone's sister had these dolls. They had this one doll that was full of water. Remember that one? Like, it was all rubber, and it had a rubber body. It was full of water.
Is it the peeing? The one that pees?
No, it was a water baby. It just felt really realistic.
Yeah.
Like, it was really heavy and liquidy.
Yeah, that's right.
And you could shake it, and it was like really fun to shake it and throw it around. Man, that was fun.
Yeah, that's right.
If I had one of those, I'd be playing with that. And there's a lamb chop puppet. Man, we had a lot of fun with that lamb chop puppet.
Yeah, we made a lot of videos.
And then she had a whole dollhouse, that whole house full of all those.
Oh yeah, I made a lot of creepy stop motion videos with that.
Yeah,
late at night in the summers.
There we are, boys making videos with doll houses.
I never really thought about it. I mean, I guess I didn't consider myself playing with dolls, but that's exactly what I was.
You were doing that,
yeah.
So, fuck all that. What's the? It's like this is a gay agenda move. That's kind of what the sentiment is like. The gay agenda's winning in making. In doing what?
Taking masculinity out of the male.
Making gender roles go away. I mean, what the. Like you can be as masculine as you fucking want, man.
I mean, does a substantial proportion of anybody really give a shit about this? Probably not.
I would say no, but if you look at Facebook, then certainly there's definitely a population.
I feel like there's not much of a point at all in trying to hold any kind of a conservative viewpoint. Really, if something's changing, it's going to change. There's literally no possible way to stop. You know what I mean? Like this, like it's not going to happen.
They would disagree with you.
What's that?
They would disagree with you.
I know, but what if they were? Nothing's ever stopped. Like no conservative, like oh no, we can't. Like change is gonna happen. Change is happening. It's gonna happen. Like you can't stop it.
I think when it comes to social change, you're right.
Yeah.
Especially one that's obviously a progressive change.
Except for Japan going the opposite direction, banning child pornography.
How's it the opposite direction?
I think that'd be. I think
it'd
be quite liberal to just say, do it. I think it's a lot more. I think that'd be ahead of us rather than behind us.
Well, but
as far as like
but it's still still conservative losing because the conservative view is what traditionally it was, which was it's fine. Like you're gonna lose. Like the momentum's there. It's changing. You know what I mean? It's changing. Like
I'm confused by what you're both saying right now.
I feel like the liberal. I feel like if it's liberal, it's kind of like do what you want.
Well, what I mean by conservative,
but you're saying
by conservative, I mean what it used to be like.
Status quo.
I'm not saying what would be held by a Democrat or Republican at all.
So you're kind of like more
you're talking about more versus
status quo versus change. I'm saying if you're being conservative about a change, I say you're gonna lose no matter what.
No matter what.
It seems like it. I don't know.
Why don't we take a little break and think about that for a while? All right, Eric, you got a topic for us about plagiarism and crediting on the internet.
A few stories this week.
Why don't you introduce?
So, if you're on Instagram, if you're on Twitter, if you're on 9gag, if you're on Reddit, if you're on anywhere on the internet and you are down with today's hip humor, you've seen a lot of memes, you've seen a lot of tweets, and you've seen a lot of Instagram accounts with like joke names that just retweet or repost all kinds of humor, all kinds of jokes, what it looks like memes basically. But when in fact what's happening is they're content aggregating, which means that they're pulling hilarious stuff from Tumblr, they're pulling hilarious tweets, and they're reposting them on their own feed for everyone's enjoyment, which is great. It's fun to see all these hilarious things in a row. But the problem is the people that make these jokes originally are claiming that they're not getting credited properly for their humor. Mm-hmm. And some of the people that make these jokes are professional comedians, some are professional comedy writers, other people that are trying to do the podcast thing, the internet fame thing, the internet money-making thing. And they're complaining because they feel that their name gets wiped out. They're not getting retweeted, they're getting reposted without their identifying information in there. People are stealing their content, and now the people that run these content aggregation accounts are making a bunch of money with ad placement. Some of them are getting Hollywood deals for sitcoms and all these things. And people are saying they do no comedy. They write none of their own material. They're basically just...
is there an example?
There's multiple examples.
Somebody landing a sitcom, I mean?
Yeah, well, this is the one that happened this week. There's an account called The Fat Jewish. Some people know him as The Fat Jew. I think it was his old account before it got kicked off Twitter, off Instagram.
Okay.
Young guy from New York. And he does this thing where he reposts all these tweets and things like that, removes the names of the original accounts, posts them. Everybody thinks this guy's hilarious. He signed a deal with a Hollywood casting agency. He apparently had a script, like a deal to write a show for Comedy Central that is no longer in the works, but it was proposed, and Comedy Central worked with him on this. He put out his own brand of wine that he advertises now on his Instagram, and apparently he's been paid up to like $2,000 per ad placement on his Instagram feed. And all he does, and he apparently has interns, he's got a staff, and all they do is just repost jokes that they didn't make, that are just basically what people would call internet memes.
Right.
But the thing is, a lot of times they're pulling text directly from tweets and things like that. So people are mad because they're not getting credited, and those other people feel that they are comedy writers too, and that they should be credited because they're trying to make a living doing this. And one other thing that related that's off of this now is that Twitter has finally instituted a way that people can make like a copyright claim on their jokes on their tweets, so that if someone reposts without retweeting, just writes the same text or same joke out there, and other people search for it and look for it or see it in their feed, what they'll see is that instead of the joke, they'll see like a text that says this tweet has been blocked due to a claim from the copyright owner.
Like YouTube.
But it's for like a text joke, like knock knock, whatever it may be, or whatever. So then you'll see a whole, if you search it now, you see a whole stream where it's just all these blocked messages, and then the original tweet might still be in the search, which is, I think, an amazing step in just a way that I'm surprised to see that happen, because I'm
curious how that system works, because it seems like it's really easy to abuse.
How so?
Well, look, what if I report as a copyright claim, "Good Morning America"? That's my joke. I mean, it's automated. It's got to be automated.
I don't think it's automated.
Nothing Twitter does. I mean, it can't not be automated.
I think it's reviewed at this point.
I mean, it's madness it's like the third biggest website in the in the world. And
it probably has things to do with like retweets and favorites and
but I mean, once people get the word is out,
right,
there's no way they can manually review every. It's got to be automated. I mean, YouTube's automated. If you make a request of something, automatically pull it down, and then it's actually like the burden of proof is on the accused to say that is actually my content.
Right.
It's happened to me before.
Right.
And you have to tell, here's the reasons why you shouldn't, this is not a copyright violation.
Right.
But they automatically will pull it. And that's probably their standard practice, because every time that Warner Brothers says they're using our song, they just yoink it immediately. Twitter's got to do the same thing. But then, what if you just say "Good Morning America" is my joke, and then Twitter pulls it? Or you say whatever obvious "Happy Birthday" is just mine. And then they fucks Twitter up, because they are. What are they going to do?
Well, I'm sure they have a. Yeah, good question. How do they know it's?
They got to have
how do they
something.
know it's not?
They got to anticipate this. But I'm
Well,
curious
you can
what
see
they're
who
gonna do.
printed that exact text first. They'll have a history.
They'll have that.
They
Yeah.
have that system.
But they don't know what is a joke and what is just completely not a joke at all.
I think they're reviewed. But besides that system, which is an interesting spin-off of this, the internet, is it a place? Is it the Wild West? Or is it a place where you can do your stand-up show on Twitter and claim rights to it?
I think it is the Wild West. As in, you need nothing other than a little bit of money to say whatever you want on the internet, and it's nearly impossible for it to get taken down, basically. So I'd say it's the Wild West in that. Twitter is not so much the Wild West, or maybe it sounds like it's not becoming that way, because they are actually they're moderating this, and they will, please people who say their stuff gets stolen or whatever. But I think generally it is the Wild West.
I think a lot of people view it old school, where, especially things like jokes, nobody knows where a certain joke is told, but it's folklore. It's part of our oral tradition, if you want to put it that way. And in that sense, there's no crediting. There's no. I mean, unless you know a professional comedian, Lewis Black told this funny joke. Otherwise, simple jokes, the simple email, the old email forwards, none of that. Nobody was worried, I don't think, about. They just want to say something funny and then see it spread. Or I don't think there was a time though when people didn't make money off of just telling your buddy a joke. If you were good at it, then you went and auditioned at a club. You did these things, and then you worked at it, and then if you were talented enough, you'd get the monetary compensation. But now what the wrench is that you can go on Twitter and you can get monetary compensation just by being funny and getting 2 million followers, because now you can monetize, you can throw ads in there every once in a while, which throws a wrench in things, because I feel like a lot of people think that's their dingy club now. I'm a comedian, I'm a comedy writer. Twitter is equivalent to making doing the circuit. Because if I can build a following on Twitter like I would doing shows for $5 a night, eventually you can lead to money, and it can if the right person finds you. But I'm not sure if designating Twitter as a protected space, or the internet as a protected space to freely throw your jokes out into the wind. I don't know if I guess I agree with that. I still feel like if you're posting things, if you're disseminating it on the internet, I feel like you're giving it away to the public domain, especially on public sites where you're not, where people don't have to pay a fee to get in to read your tweets.
Yeah, and especially when it's such a short message. I mean, yeah, I guess I'm against content aggregators stealing somebody's joke. However, like, would be so easy to do it. You know what I mean? I read a tweet, I'm like, oh, that's funny. I'll just tweet it to my followers and get that. I mean,
right.
It's just so that's kind of what you're saying, right? Is just that you should somewhat expect a little bit of this.
The biggest complaint I think people have is they just say, well, why don't you just use the retweet function? Because what happens is they'll take a screenshot and they'll chop it up and they'll remove the name. So then all of a sudden, in most cases, so then you don't know where it came from, even though it would have been easy to designate where that joke is coming from.
Well, because they want the
credit. That's the biggest complaint. And they want the credit. Yeah. Because especially when the other person is now making money off of it. Because I could start one of these accounts, and start throwing, copying people's stuff and trying to build it up, and then maybe even advertising or trying to figure out a way to network my way towards more followers. And eventually you might get there if you selectively find the right stuff. It's not easy to just go around and find jokes on the internet. I mean, you're gonna have to monitor some things. But it doesn't make any sense to me why they leave out the original source.
Because they want to take credit. Because this guy wouldn't have gotten the Comedy Central deal if he wasn't funny.
Yeah, if he's just retweeting a bunch of shit, they're not going to be like, "Oh, this guy's got a good eye for humor. Let's hire him and
write our show." It's like a writer stealing a great book that somebody else wrote.
Well, I think I don't think this is going to last long. I don't think comedians who are pissed about this, I suppose you could steal a joke from anywhere and put it on Twitter to make your Twitter account famous and not give credit in that case. So if that's the case, if someone's actually stealing jokes from like a real and like a meat space stand-up show and putting it on Twitter, there's probably nothing they can do. However, if you're starting on Twitter and you're putting on Twitter jokes, it's really fucking easy to see that someone else wrote this first. So Twitter's probably going to start moderating this and cracking it down, and maybe they'll ban these accounts to do that. So I don't think this is something to really worry about, especially Twitter. You know what I mean? Like, I think if you want to get Twitter famous and have all your jokes stay, like, you can probably get these things taken down. If you're spending your time doing that, you're probably never going to have that many followers to be making a lot of money for your tweets anyways. I would just guess. I don't know. Unless you have a whole organization, like, looking at everything and, like, making all these requests. I mean, I don't know.
And I guess I see the point, though, if, like, you could be fine. You could tell your jokes on the internet, right? Like, you're a funny guy. You could probably post some funny tweets that could get... It could happen. No, you're not funny. You could post something that goes big, and you'd be like, "Wow, that's awesome! Like, my joke got, everybody likes my joke. It's huge. I'm the guy that wrote that joke. Not everybody needs to know." But I think where you might get mad is that if someone took that joke who actually makes a lot of money off posting that joke online, I think that's where you'd be mad. People might not be mad for not getting credited initially, but I think if they look and say, "That guy makes $2,000 a week reposting stuff. He took my joke to help him make money and I get zero money." I think that's where the unfairness maybe comes from too. So it's not always just like these people are idiots for not thinking people will steal it, but I think they're just upset that someone is making a living off just using their stuff. And I think that's where maybe
it's plagiarism in any... This is just a new media for it. I mean, you just be just as mad if somebody stole your book.
I think if nobody could make money on Twitter, which isn't going to happen, but if that was the case, I don't think people would be mad. Even if the guy had 2 million followers, they wouldn't be mad. But I think some of it is probably just like, this guy's making it big now, where I'm still grinding it out.
But the same medium that makes it so easy to steal someone's joke also makes it easy to call someone out. Like, I heard of this guy. I've never heard of this guy, the fat Jewish or whatever. However, now I read someone I'm friends with on Facebook who's a comedian posted this article and gave some comments about how he thinks people stealing jokes is bullshit. Now I think the guy's a total rat, and I'm not going to think he's funny, and I'm not going to follow him. And like anything he's lost it all. So I think that it kind of there's a really easy way to combat it. Say, hey, look, this rich dude stole my joke, and then like people think he's bad. You know what I mean? I think it's
social justice.
I think that's a good. It's an easy
kind
of revenge. Yeah, it's a good check. And also, like I said, I feel like they're already starting to moderate it. They're going to moderate it more, and it's. Eventually, they're not going to find it worth it to steal jokes, I think, because they probably will get shut down.
It's not going to work now.
But here's the thing: I think they would still make money because I think there is a need in the marketplace. I mean, I don't want to go around a Tumblr looking for the one funny thing the one guy said that one time. Like, I don't want. I'd like to have. It's nice to have it all there. That
well, the retweet function is the way to do that.
Exactly, and even on Instagram. But that's the thing too, where it's like I don't see how you can't still make money by ad placement just by being good at aggregating or at stealing all these jokes, putting them in one thing. If you still gave credit. It doesn't mean people. I think I would still go to a place where there's just a string of jokes versus follow all these different people.
Yeah.
And so the guy would still have the followers. He'd still have the eyes looking at his account. He'd still be able to make money off of it.
Well,
and even if he gave credit, and he's making money, can people make a claim? You know, if you're retweeting, can people make a claim? Like at that point on Twitter,
no, retweet is
not
totally
one that Twitter would care about.
And yet he would still be able to make money because people follow him because he's the main.
No, but people like this, like, right? If you got retweeted by some dude who's got 1 million followers, like that'd be like that'd probably make your entire life, right?
That'd be awesome. If the
Bad
Jewish retweeted me,
yeah, because you get 1 million more followers, it's gonna be better for you. It's gonna be better for everyone.
Everybody gets to
I still think people would still follow him because again, you can get it all in one place. So I who knows? But that's surprising to me that people don't give the credit. But again, maybe he thinks he can make more money by.
I don't think it's surprising that someone wouldn't give credit. I think people have stolen art, made derivative works, and just flat out stolen in like all sorts of art ways.
I'm not shocked.
People make a lot of money off
I'm
this.
just.
So, I mean,
there are a lot that do give credit. They just retweet.
Yep.
Like your boy Lean and Cuisine over there.
Well, he actually he does. I think he does
screenshots with username.
He does. But he also does because
you want the credit.
His thing is he's actually hilarious. He has a lot of his big thing.
Oh, is his Instagram?
He's one of the guys that writes some of those that get stolen, and that's where he's the original source on a lot of hilarious
He
stuff.
writes the But I mean, like there are people that do that and they just retweet or reshare, and they do get a lot of followers, but they don't get press because nobody is reporting them. It's the guys that steal people's identities, steal people's jokes, and say I wrote this joke. Then they get the press, but like there's both camps.
Mm-hmm. So now, how does this work? Since you do the Thai videos, there's a few guys on the internet. I don't know if there's a few or a ton. That do Thai thing, that do fashion instructables, they do all kinds of stuff like that. It's again, there's a Windsor knot in tying ties, and everybody can show how to make a Windsor knot. That's not an issue. But I guess how do you view hey, I invented a new knot. Yep. I've seen you give credit all the time. You'd say this guy came up with this, or I saw this on this guy's channel, or this guy does. I've seen you do that before.
Yeah.
And I know you've done things that other people do. And how do you look at it when you make videos and you make your instructable videos? If you see other people kind of like using the same knots, I mean, do you get really upset if somebody says?
I get a little mad. There was a guy he made a book. I don't know if he wrote the book, but he made a book of necktie knots and diagrams. It's a book. He's selling it on Amazon, and he's using all of my pictures as the knot icons.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's all my photographs, and he's got a full book. It's like $30 on Amazon. He's selling it, and it's all my pictures.
Wait a minute, but you got a claim there, don't you?
I don't know. I mean, what do I do? You know what I mean? What do I do? Get a lawyer? I don't want to pay a fucking lawyer for what? I don't know what I'm going to get. So I just see it up there.
You're saying Yuri's going to make you pay?
I mean, my pictures being like my photos of like the Trinity knot, especially. It's a purple Trinity knot. Yeah. That photo is all over the internet as the icon of the Trinity knot. And I never get credit for it. It's on every website, like how to tie a Trinity knot. It's always my picture.
Use your soapbox here and call this guy out or something.
I don't remember his name. I emailed him and I said, that's my pictures. You haven't given me credit in the book or anything. Yeah. He goes, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize they were your pictures, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh.
Sure. Well, because what happens, you didn't have a watermark, which isn't mandatory.
Right. He just Googled
your pictures, your picture shows up in Google Images.
Or, I mean, I think he knew for sure. And there's no way he doesn't know that's my photo. There's no way. At the time that book came out, like, I was like number one in Trinity Knot, so he definitely knew. But I mean, I can't, if he didn't know, what am I going to do? I don't know what my recourse is. But I mean, at this point, I just kind of like learn to, it's like, whatever. Those are pictures are out there. They're my pictures. And I mean, I'm not, like, people know enough that I'm like the Thai guy that it's not it doesn't hurt me. But you know what I was concerned about? Not that I'm concerned, like really concerned, but I was thinking if a company, if a website like BuzzFeed made all new videos for necktie knots with their high budget, best BuzzFeed cameras. They really like made high quality necktie knots and made them kind of funny. Like some guy with a British accent is doing it in like a oak room with the fireplace behind him with with the bookshelf, and he's like, "Oh, this is how you tie a traditional Trinity knot with this fucking accent." They made better videos than anybody because they have the production value.
Yeah.
They made a blog post like, "Here's the only necktie knots you'll ever need to know for the rest of your life."
Sure.
List. BuzzFeed.
Okay, I could see that getting...
That goes viral as fuck, right? Like, no question. Free money for BuzzFeed. That list will for sure be the absolute list of necktie knots. And their series of videos will be the absolute series of videos. And they'll put everybody else to the sidelines.
Yeah.
No matter who did it first.
The whole community.
No matter who did it first. No matter who did it, like, they're going to just shove everybody out.
Is that the free market working? Is that...
Well, but they haven't done that yet. You know, and BuzzFeed has done necktie articles, and instead of doing that, they linked to my video, and they linked to, you know, they have, like, videos of all of us dudes. They put Patrick in there, they put, you know, and that's great of them. But they could have gone a totally different way and taken all of the credit.
Well, yeah, but that other way, I mean, they're not in the business of like making necktie tutorial video. I mean, like their business is new, so they find something good and I mean, I think it makes sense that they wouldn't. I mean, what are they really going to get from that? I mean, are they really?
They'll get all the YouTube views then.
Yeah, but I mean, compared to, look at it compared to the rest of. I mean, they're like a major news source.
Well,
don't breaks real stories. I mean, why would they do that?
I'm not saying why would they do that.
Well, don't look at necktie videos. Just look anything that would be.
What I'm saying is
that would be more popular.
Anything that people do
like a cooking thing
that is like a niche.
Yeah.
BuzzFeed can take that and steal the audience completely.
They could do a life hack series.
Like neckties are a good example because they're somewhat like exotic neckties are somewhat of a niche audience. There's a lot of people that read BuzzFeed that don't know shit about neckties.
Right.
And there's a lot of people who look at necktie videos and they're like actively looking for cool neckties and they find those. Now, if BuzzFeed introduced their entire audience to exotic neckties, which have no idea what's going on, those people would have no idea that there are other sources other than BuzzFeed for this. They would think BuzzFeed just gave me this great shit.
Yeah.
That's
How do they come up with this stuff?
Yeah, these guys are the best. Yeah. And they take all the credit. They get all the traffic, all the juice. Their YouTube channel would crush everybody. You know what I mean? Like they would just steal the entire audience and the entire industry. They haven't done that, and I'm happy they haven't. But these aggregator sites like Upworthy, like BuzzFeed, you know, they have such a massive audience that whenever they find a niche that's very well like active by people, they can steal that niche completely and just crush it, and then they would just kill everybody and take all the juice. And I mean, it's kind of a matter of time before that happens. I feel like. I think. I don't know. BuzzFeed hasn't done that. They've been nice about it, but like there are other sites that aren't as nice,
Yeah.
And they would just gobble it up.
I don't know if that's just part of the game. I think it's it's I don't want to say quite unethical, but it sucks, But what do you almost kind of go, well, what do you do? That's how you get the followers.
Well, I mean, if BuzzFeed wants to make a bunch of necktie tutorials, I mean, then fine. Yeah. I mean, I don't really see they're stealing. I mean, I don't know if they think that's a good idea. Then I mean, fine. Like maybe, like any niche they wanted to go in, like they'd probably do this, like you said. I mean, so what should they do? They're just like, we'll just stick to news.
They're doing fine. I'm saying I'm not. This is just the nature of things. There's nothing. Nobody's doing anything wrong here. I'm just saying that if BuzzFeed decided to crush my traffic completely by just making better videos than me, they could definitely do that.
I thought your traffic already was crushed.
Well, it's down. I mean,
running out of knots.
There's no need to do that. All right, we'll move on here. We'll move on because I want to get Malone. This is a classic. Explain it to me like I'm 5.
Okay, before we move on, I just want to say I want to see comments on that topic. What people think about jokes on the internet, because it seems like it should be an easy topic, but I think once you start thinking about the different angles of it, is a joke. Do you need credit? Do you not need credit? When do you need credit? I think it can get really complicated really quick. So I'd like to see people's opinions actually on that.
You heard it. You heard it here first. Give your opinions on here.
Yeah, leave some comments. Comments are fun.
Yeah, comments are fun, and Eric will be there commenting back.
I get in the comments. I'm one of those. I'm a YouTube commenter.
All right, Malone, explain to me like I'm 5. What is reverb?
It's like echo.
Like echo.
Like echo, but a little muddier. So like echo is like, hey, hey, hey. Reverb's like, hey, like big giant hall. Stand in a giant hall, yell, hey. Think of it.
That's reverb.
That's reverb. Just
like
echo.
a weird echo.
It's an echo, yeah. It's on everything. It's on any mastered music will have some reverb usually.
Why?
It makes it sound better.
It makes it sound better.
It makes it sound like it's not recorded in some tiny room, like more like it's in some big hall. That's kind of like the psychological argument. I will agree if you record your voice, You probably have it on whatever software you use to edit this, like a reverb thing.
Add reverb?
Turn it. I mean, it's not going to sound. In this case, it's not right for like a discussion podcast. But in music, it makes a voice sound a little better. It makes everything sound just a little bit better.
Does it add some depth?
It adds an echo.
Yep.
Now, I asked my boy Wiley about this a while ago, and he explained to me as a reverse echo. What do you think about that? Or is that something else?
I can't.
Is that preverb?
Preverb?
Preverb.
I think that would be. I would call that reverse reverb echo. But yeah,
so that's where the echo happens.
Reverb is
before
just
the
an
real
echo.
sound.
It's just a like more muddier. It's not a
interesting.
Yeah, like that.
All right, I understand that then. It's like an echo, but faster, and in every direction.
Yeah, an echo without a defined response. It's where it echoes at like a billion echoes all at once.
Wow.
At different speeds and stuff. Kind of.
All right, next question about rain. If I have 3 different size receptacles out in the front yard, a little swimming pool, like little blue swimming pools, a bucket, and a glass, and it's raining. At the end of that rain, if I put a ruler in all of those pools, will they all have the same amount of water in inches?
The same depth.
The same depth of water.
Yeah.
They should? You know for sure, or are you guessing?
Pretty sure. Think of how they record rainfall.
They just have a little beaker.
No, think of the stats. Look up rainfall, average rainfall in Minneapolis. What's the unit? Inches.
Right.
Or millimeters or something. It's that. It's a linear measure.
They catch it in a little beaker.
Yeah, you can catch it whatever you want.
But it could be a big beaker.
Sure.
And you get 2 inches anyway.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I thought in my head. But it's one of those things where you're like, that's what it feels
I agree.
like.
It does seem pretty weird, but yeah, it's.
Well, because the area gets bigger.
It's got to be. Yeah,
so it fills
matter.
up that much more. Right? Now, if you have one of those weird, a beaker, straight up, what do they call those? An Alzenheimer flask.
Yeah.
With a small head.
Yeah,
I was looking at your.
Yeah, that's
actually
bad,
looking at your.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a bad way to measure.
So that would be different
it's a
because
bad way to measure
you
rain.
get that circumference. See, that would be different. But if it's a full open mouth receptacle, so there's a little science lesson for you. Oh, you fucking losers.
Basically, the
Interesting
rim
to
has
think
to be the same
It is
circumference as the.
You know what I really like? When people have coffee mugs that are shaped like those flasks. What do they call it? Is it like from Mario Brothers 2 when you pick up the potion? It's a triangle with a face.
I think it's it's not a beaker. A beaker is a thin one. I don't know what that's
It's
called.
got a
It's not a
Eisenheimer flask.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Come on.
Alzenheimer
I've never heard of that. I have one. I have like a half-liter one actually.
Well, they have coffee mugs like that.
What are you, Heisenberg?
No, it was a dude's. I had a Halloween party and someone was. I forget who they were, but they had this giant thing, so I still have it.
Huh.
It's really funny.
Let's see what the internet says.
Would you look up Eisenheimer flask?
I looked up name of science flask.
Oh yeah, that's it.
Just click on it; it'll
click
tell
the-
you a bunch
click the
of. There it
image,
is.
yeah.
There it is, right there. Erlenmeyer.
Erlenmeyer flask.
I've heard
I knew it. Well, anyway, they have coffee mugs that are like that, and I really love them because they have a small neck, so you can't splash it very easily because it's a very small, neck. But the body has a lot of coffee in it.
You're a masochist.
Washing those.
Yeah,
things.
have fun washing it.
What do you mean?
I have
Just-
one like that.
I mean, you just rinse it out. It's a fucking coffee mug. What are you letting it mold?
I know how you wash stuff.
Yeah.
However, I'm saying for a normal person, how do they wash it? Then you need one of those.
You can't get in there.
Angled
That's-
brushes or whatever.
I mean, it's not literally a flask. It's still a mug.
I know, but
Why
I
don't you
have
guys
one.
just shut the fuck up? All
Yeah,
right,
it's real cool when people have those.
moving along to genetic engineering from Malone.
Yeah, so I read an interesting article in my favorite newspaper, The Economist. It was kind of a longer special feature about
Longer than normal articles.
Yes.
Good
yes.
luck finishing
it was like
that.
a 3-page thing. I finished it. But
Single space, 10.5,
Yeah.
$8 a copy.
They're talking about genetic engineering and some additional breakthroughs in gene therapies that they can have for people. For mostly to this point, it's been used to prevent like rare, like strange diseases, like very debilitating.
How
diseases.
strange?
Like very rare, as in it affects 1 in, I don't know, a million or something like that. Something around there. And they were just talking about how the implications of this, once you can start changing the actual, have your actual genes change how they recreate and how they replicate and things like that.
So we're not talking like prenatal. Like we're not talking before it gets born. We're talking like you're 20 years old, we're going to change your genes? Like mid-stride?
Yes, that was part of it. So
Okay.
one something to think about. This is happening. This can happen. It is currently allowed for I forget what was exactly legal for it, but there's some kind of a rare defect about bearing children for women that was actually approved in the UK. So there's a gene therapy that's actually changing the genes of people so that they can bear children. This was like a specific like vote on this.
Sounds great.
Right, I know. But it has quite dramatic implications for the future. As in, I mean, you've seen the movie Gattaca, right? Where you can just kind of you look at what if you can turn off, all these, like turn off Alzheimer's or turn off like severe mental illnesses, or you can turn off like all these things. Or you just think all of it?
If you're Rachel
turn all the, I mean, yeah, why would you not leave? Why would you leave those on?
If you're Rachel Dolezal, you could actually be black. You could change your genes.
Not when you're only at birth. Not after the fact.
You don't think so? Midlife, you just kind of change
your
this
is part of it. This is part of it. Is you can do it after the fact because if you can change what your gene replicates into. So now you have the new one and this one, and then that one. I mean,
so you can change races.
I could look like Malone. I could think about the spines. I could look like Malone. Like all of a sudden,
I want to look like Brad Pitt. Just that happens to you over the course of the next 5 years.
6 months. Oh my god,
sick. I like that. Well, I mean that's different than not having Alzheimer's. Well, that's like plastic surgery, genetic surgery.
Yeah.
Sick.
But what about so this is already happening. Is it stoppable? As in, are there could we make laws that would actually stop this?
Deal with it, conservatives.
I don't think it's just conservatives.
No, I know. It's
I would say no. I don't think genetic engineering is something that we're going to be able to stop. Nor do we want to. I think we want to do it. That's our next step, I think. It's absolutely great. To fix our genes pre-birth or post-birth, to just fix our genes. I mean, it's fucking phenomenal. I can see that there's societal implications where like only the rich can afford it, whatever. Mm-hmm. But once it becomes affordable and mainstream, and we can build our genetic code, fucking absolutely. You know what I mean?
All for it.
Absolutely for it.
Yeah, I think I'm all for it too.
I want to be a sick athlete with sick abs.
Question.
Sick metabolism.
Here's a hypothetical. Just off of that. To go down the road of people always talking about like immortality and like extending your life, like you live for 1,000 words. Okay,
it's gonna happen.
Here's the thing:
computers.
What makes you so special that? Because there's going to come a point where you can only have so many people in the world, right? So at some point, if all of a sudden everyone can be immortal, you don't want to create more people because no one's going to die. So you basically just say, well, everybody's here. We don't have to die. We can live forever. We're going down the hypothetical road, but like. Is that ethical to not create more humans? Do we like what makes you special enough to live forever? I feel like there's an advantage to have multiple generations, have new people, new ideas, new minds come along, new people be created, and have a chance to do something in the world.
Yeah, it's a good point. Would it make stagnant humans? Like if everyone lives forever, you're stuck in your conservative views and you're in charge because you're rich and old and like.
Sure, you're only getting older and richer.
That's a good point. That probably wouldn't be good.
Like,
if everyone can live forever?
If Star Trek taught me anything, two things. Star Trek, the Q, who live forever, are immortal, are omniscient.
Greatest character.
They're all miserable because they've done everything, and now they're just bored. Same concept. The movie Zardoz with Sean Connery. Weird fucking flick. Changed my life forever when I watched it. Is that the one with
that internet picture where he's in like the red?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
That movie changed my life. Back when I watched it with my boy Noah back in middle school. And the premise of that movie is eternal life is hell.
I agree.
Yeah, and that's what the movie was. And I mean, that's what I got out of it. I don't think it's explicit, but that's what I got out of it. And that was the premise there too. It's interesting. I mean, yeah.
I feel that to offshoot that, and here I go on tangents, but I remember one of the first memories I had of like trying to like juggle a concept in my head, and I think I was about 3 or 4 years old, and I remember asking I think my dad about heaven and like what heaven meant. And I remember in our Christian household, it was you get to go to heaven and you live with Jesus and you live forever. In my head at 4 years old,
Jesus better be a really great comedian.
Yeah, so I remember in my head thinking like, okay, a really long time, and then you do the thing where you try to like imagine infinity, and I said a really long time plus a really long time plus a really long time, and I thought there's no end, like you never get to like quote unquote sleep. and like I remember crying because I thought that sounded like the worst thing ever. Like you can never stop. You can never stop your existence. You just have to be.
It'd be like Groundhog Day every day.
Exactly. And I thought that sounds like the worst thing in the world. Like this is like that's heaven. Like that's the idea. I remember thinking I don't want that. I remember crying because it sounded scary as fuck.
There's no like. I asked people about this. We have our boy Pitts coming up later. He's very religious, and people who are religious, I would ask them that. To my mind, being in heaven, even if you're promised anything you ever wanted, that would get boring. Let's give it infinite time. There's no other option.
Well, that's like, I just watched the Simpsons episode the other day when they're in Sunday school and Bart asks about hell. And he goes, wouldn't you just get used to it after a while? And the teacher's like, no. Like, that was it. Like, no, you wouldn't. And like, that was the end of the discussion. And it's like, I feel like...
But they provide when I ask them this question, they provide me two answers that I've received that are reasonable, I would say. One is, you are unable to feel bored or upset. And then I would say, well, then it's not me anymore. You know what I mean? Like, that's not me anymore. Mm-hmm. If I can't feel what I feel, then it's like, I'm not even the same person. Or number two is, what was number two? I had it, but I lost it. There was a second version. But, whatever. I wasn't satisfied with either one. Oh, the second version was we can't comprehend what heaven is in our terms. Where the terms we think of now is...
So how do I know
we do the same thing for infinite years? That's not what it's like. We can't imagine what it's like.
Well, then how do I know I want to go there?
Well,
see, I don't think
faith.
I don't think you'd necessarily get bored.
What do you mean? You do everything. Then you'd be done with everything.
Repetitive?
You would have done every possible thing.
No, I don't think so.
What do you mean?
Well, I'm recalling an argument from a math class, or a very famous math argument.
Okay.
So it kind of like assume you did everything. Let's say everything's done.
Did it all.
Okay. Plus one? Are we plus oneing it?
Plus one?
Infinity plus one is still...
Kind of. It's kind of like that. So let's say you've done everything, and you have like a list of everything. Like you did this, you did like everything. Each one is infinitely long, you do all those things. But then like, you could make up a new thing you haven't done yet from all that list. Like, say the first item on the list is like, first I like walked a dog, and then I like watched all of like World War II, like, and then I played 89 hours of video games straight, and like all these things. You could always make up something you haven't done in that exact order, no matter how long your list was of all the things that you've ever done.
What is that, a proof?
Kind of. Well, I mean, that's what it was in real math. I'm being abstract about this.
But like, can I counter?
Well, it depends. This is a bigger discussion, but it depends if we're talking about an infinite or finite universe. Which, you know,
if we're talking our classic, probably, you know, Christian version of things, and maybe even, you know, Jewish if you want to get into that. But I think that is a counter to that, the fact that yes, you could always do one more thing, but you always have another sliver of time beyond that because of eternity that you have to fill. Like, which one? Like, you kind of say, like, yeah, you could fill eternity by doing one more thing, but then I would always come back with, but then you have more time that you have to fill after that.
Yeah, but I guess I say you have infinite things to do. I don't know. You got to buy the idea that there's infinite things to do.
What happens?
Which I don't.
What happens if you run out of quote unquote good things to do, or would you not?
That's what I'm saying.
Like could you do a bad thing?
Then you're trying to get tortured on purpose because you're just fucking out of things to do. You like might as well get.
What if you like? I mean, you do the same. Like you play the same video game over and over and over. What if you just love it? Never get bored.
You play Mass Effect like, maybe nonstop? It's possible that I love Mass Effect so much I could literally play it nonstop. But given a million years, I can't say that anymore. In my pathetic lifetime, I can play Mass Effect for the next 60 years and maybe be happy.
So would you rather die the normal time you're gonna, or infinite life? You choose right now. You die whenever you normally die.
Die normal time.
Really?
Yeah.
I think I'd take infinite life.
In your body now, or in any form?
I don't know.
You're just taking yours, rolling the dice.
Whatever, your body, whatever the wizard's like. Hey, you want to die when you normally would, or you want to live forever?
Live forever.
I'd say live forever. Yeah.
Interesting.
There's a lot to do, man. I don't want to die.
Yeah, it's a curse, though.
Maybe
you'll end up floating in fucking space, just suffocating for all eternity.
That'd be pretty bad.
Yeah. Finally, the Andromeda Galaxy crashes into the Milky Way. You're fucking just flying in space like an asshole.
It's not gonna hurt anything, but.
Yeah, if you can't be
we got to worry about your
Stargirl supernova.
No, the heat death of the universe.
Yeah, absolutely. That's entropy takes over.
Yeah,
universe
everything's
gets fucking cold,
nothing.
But if you're quote unquote living forever, that doesn't coincide. If the universe is going to end, then you have to end. So
No, you'll still float
No,
around.
you're
You're just floating in cold space.
Yeah, they actually think there was a new results from a survey that thinks that is going to happen. They weren't sure. They think
What,
it is
cold
going to.
space?
It's going to be the cold death where everything spreads out.
Yeah, I read
and
we're no
nothing is there.
longer big crushing anymore.
They didn't know. They never knew, and they
I heard
there was
this
some
on
recent
Overtime.
observation that said they think it's going to be a cold death.
That's really depressing, isn't it?
It is. I'd rather it smash up again.
It doesn't even matter to us at all because it's like
No,
billions
no.
and trillions of years away. But
Not even close to
it's-
matter.
but it's still sad to
It
know.
doesn't even close. To
Oh,
matter.
it's sad. All right, look, we're moving to this one other topic before we're doing a pretty great time, I guess. But I want to talk
Is
about
great long.
Well,
Long is great.
we're long, and that's great because we have a lot of topics that we're not covering. I feel like that's like a bounty.
That's good.
I feel like that's good.
Okay.
Anyway, here's what I want to talk about. I want to talk about. I participate in a lot of Facebook arguments. People say don't fight with people. You know that meme they have? It's like, "Honey, come to bed," and the guy's typing.
Someone's wrong. on the internet.
And they go, "Someone's wrong on the internet."
Oh,
That's
sure.
me.
Yeah.
I'm that guy.
Well, and you're a pot stirrer.
Well, I mean, yes. I'm not afraid to argue with people.
Right.
I like it, kind of. You know, I mean, I kind of hate it too, but I like it. I like to fight with people on the internet.
Yeah.
And I don't want to say fight, but I like to at least attempt, do my best to bring a logical kind of debate framework.
You
to
enjoy sparring.
I like to spar, yeah. So I see this a lot. And you know, people say Facebook is like an echo chamber where you just like things you like. For me, it's the opposite of that.
Right.
For me, Facebook's a fucking war zone. Every post I see is somebody who I fight with constantly. It's an endless stream of like people I disagree with because I fight with them constantly. And Facebook reflects what you want. You know what I mean? So for me, it's not an echo chamber at all.
I'm surprised that I feel like I can't do that. Either my friends, I don't know what the problem is on my page, so I don't know if I intimidate people. I don't know if I'm I don't think I'm an asshole. Especially compared to what you the way you go at it, because you're ruthless. Like you're not. I don't think you're mean spirited.
I don't think
You're not
I am.
mean spirited. You're just not merciful.
Well.
And I feel like when I post things like people that I know that I like that family, cousins, friends, whatever. Like if I think they're ridiculous, I feel like then they shut up and they don't want to. They don't want to play that game.
Yeah.
We like it. We enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I'm not making it personal, but like I don't have a problem if somebody says, well, that's a stupid thing, then they say you said a stupid thing, whatever. You go at it. But I feel like I have friends that have interactions on their page, and I have to go to their comment sections. But none of the people I know on Facebook apparently want to participate in the things I post. Either I'm always right or post cool things that people agree with. Maybe I'm their echo chamber. But I'm always jealous of your page. I'm always jealous of other people's pages who get people
Hey man, stop
going at
anytime.
it. I'm just
Stop
saying they
anytime.
go in the comments and.
So here's what I notice a lot. Okay, people, this is a logical fallacy. Now people always they quote these. There's a list of logical fallacies you can go. It's on Wikipedia, and there's a huge list of, and they have all cute names, And people say, oh, this is a logical fallacy. It's important to know why calling something out as a logical fallacy is important. When you're having a discussion about a topic, like a world topic, in this case, it's going to be a topic of oil, of fossil fuel burning. This is the most recent one where I've seen this. Is somebody's protesting about how we should stop burning fossil fuels. Okay? And because it's harmful to the environment, they have a whole series of topics. I don't know much about the argument, and I'm not on any side. I don't give a fuck. Okay? This is not something I care about at all. But I see people constantly post really illogical arguments on why the protesters are wrong. So these are conservatives who are pro-fossil fuels.
Sure.
They're defending burning fossil fuels. And this has happened 3 different instances where I've seen something very similar sentiment. And that is, here's a photograph of a bunch of people in kayaks holding up signs in some oil rig.
Yeah.
Are you going to show this cartoon?
No, this is a photograph. It's a photograph of a bunch of protesters in kayaks. There's a cartoon
I know,
as well.
I've seen them. Are you going to show
Oh,
it for
I
the
will. Yes,
audience?
I will show the cartoon.
With credit?
Yeah, I mean, sure. It's
I think it's
not
on there.
It's not a but the cartoon is a different issue, but it's similar. But okay, it's a bunch of people in kayaks,
Sure.
and they're holding up signs at an oil rig, and they're saying, stop burning fossil fuels, whatever.
Sure.
And then the Facebook post is, here's a bunch of people in petroleum kayaks
Sure.
with iPhones arguing against fossil fuel burning.
Basically, all the stuff that they're using is
made from fossil fuels. I'm putting this in quote marks.
Or from the
And that's kind of like, these guys their protest is wrong because they're using petroleum products.
Right.
So the argument here is they're hypocrites. They're using petroleum products while campaigning against petroleum products. That makes their argument invalid. That is not true. And that's people need to get this through their head. You can call somebody a hypocrite and think less of them for being a hypocrite. Totally fine. But that doesn't invalidate the claims they're making, that fossil fuels are harmful to the environment. It does not invalidate those claims. And you got to understand the difference between posting that meme and saying these protesters are wrong because they're dumb. They're not dumb. They're making reasonable arguments against fossil fuel burning. There's a lot of reasons they could be using kayaks. Maybe there's no alternative kayaks available because they're all made out of petroleum. There's no fucking wooden kayaks they can buy in a reasonable amount of money or time.
They're cost prohibitive.
Yeah. But even if it's like if a smoker tells you not to smoke because it's bad for you, is his argument incorrect because he's a smoker? He's a hypocrite? So don't listen to the hypocrite. No, smoking's bad for you. That's a fact. If you want to contest the fact that smoking's bad for you, then that's an argument you got to make. But calling out the guy who's telling you as a hypocrite isn't a refutation of his argument. People, this is a real big one that I see so often. You got to just fucking get it because it makes you look stupid when you do it. You know?
Well, no, I hate agreeing with you, but I'm completely on board with you on this one because this is a pet peeve of mine as well. But wait until elections are coming up. Just wait. Listen to this is such a common argument of the opposition party who's trying to get elected. So I expect the Republicans to make this. Where I remember when Obama was running the first time, or any political fight at all, they say, "Oh God, this is going to cost so much money." It's like, well, look at them. Look how much money they spent in Iraq. You know, that's the exact same thing.
Sure. Yep.
Which is not. They're not addressing the issue at hand. They're saying they did it too. This is extremely common. This is not limited to Facebook. I hear this all the time.
Right.
All sorts of political everything.
Absolutely.
And I'm not looking forward to hearing it a lot this time because nobody can understand what you're trying to
say.
say.
So this is kind of a two-pronged thing. First, to you who are making the argument, realize your argument is not sound. And if you're listening to this argument, identify it and realize that it's not sound. Don't fall for it. Like, yeah, they spent a bunch of money on, they wasted money too. Yeah, they wasted money too. But that doesn't mean that the money waste happening here. And this is I took logic class in college. Not that I'm better than anybody, but I took a logic class because I thought it was interesting. And this example was in the book. Okay, Factory A, who dumps a lot of pollution in the lake, accuses Factory B of dumping a lot of pollution in the lake.
Right.
Factory B says they can't. Their claims are false because they dump pollution in the lake, and that doesn't make sense. They're both wrong for dumping pollution in the lake.
Right.
But the claim one is making against the other is not any less factual.
And what I hate most about when this is employed is it's used not always to discredit someone else, but a lot of times it's used to justify one's own actions. Whereas, they do it too, so it's okay for me to reduce myself. Like you're talking about, like they'll justify their dumping of pollution by saying all the other factories dump pollution, so we can dump a little bit more pollution. And then the other factory comes over and goes, why are you looking at us for dumping our pollution? That they do it too. And then Factory B kind of goes, we'll pollute a little more. Everyone kind of says everyone's doing it, therefore we can do the same thing or more sometimes. Or people call people names. Well, he insulted me, so therefore he's a jackass. And it's like, well, now we've just ruined the whole debate because now both parties are out of their mind and not talking about the topic anymore, or accusing each other, or getting so far from debating the actual topic. And that's where I've seen that. I see that in all the things. People, oh, well, you can't call me racist because that's racist. And, all of a sudden you're just kind of like, well, what about the original problem that we're trying to address? It doesn't matter because people are attacking.
Yeah, and this is why making logical arguments matters. You can't, if you're making poor arguments, you want to be better at it, you got to identify it. And if you want to be a better listener, you got to identify it also. So it's important to know. And a lot of times I don't like it, be like, oh, that's a logical fallacy. Well, it is, but it's important to really understand what that means. It's not just like because it has a name, it's wrong. Because somebody named that a thing. I mean, it's wrong because it doesn't make sense.
What's the name for the hypocrite one?
It's called the U2 fallacy or the tu quo fallacy in Latin. The cartoon in question, the cartoon we were talking about earlier, outside of the kayaks, was a protester who's saying, down with fossil fuels, and he's driving a car, and he's holding a sign, and he's got a cell phone, and he's got and it's like, he's got shoes and a hat and sunglasses and a cell phone and a car, and then here he is being a hypocrite. And then the next picture it says, a world without fossil fuels. And it's a guy wearing no clothes with a fig leaf on his penis, holding like a stick, because he can't even protest anymore because fossil fuels are everything. And it's not.
I will say about the cartoon, there's nothing. The cartoon itself, there's nothing not true about that, right?
Right.
Each panel is fine. You're drawing an implication from what you think they're trying to say and how they're trying to break down the arguments. However, I think that the fact that somebody is being hypocritical it does not change their argument, but it is something. And sometimes it is amusing to see those sorts of things.
It's amusing in cartoon form because it's funny. But this cartoon does two things. First, it uses the hypocrite fallacy as an argument. Like this guy's a hypocrite.
But the cartoon itself isn't doing anything. The cartoon is just displaying what it is.
Well, no, that's to say the cartoon. To say there's no message implied.
Yeah, I think that's charitable.
Yeah, to say there's no message implied in the cartoon is I think disingenuous. There wasn't a random panel. He's making a very clear statement that this guy is using petroleum products while campaigning against petroleum. Mm-hmm. That's a very clear. Panel 1 is a very clear message there. And then panel 2 is, without petroleum products, we have nothing, which is a different fallacy. That's the false dichotomy, as they call it, which means you're offering two options. Either we have modern technology with fossil fuels, or we're Adam and Eve with no fossil fuels. But those are not the only two options available. We have a lot of alternatives, not only to products, but to energy sources and material sources. They're ignoring that completely. They're saying, if we give up fossil fuels, you're just naked holding a stick. Mm-hmm. Well, that's not the way the world would be if we didn't. We have a lot of different energy sources we can use, and we have hemp products, and we have... I mean, the cartoon's full of garbage, but that's fine. You can make the cartoon, but it's important for people to educate themselves and realize where it's coming from and what the message is. The message in this cartoon is totally wrong on both fronts, in my opinion. But I think I have pretty good supports for that, You can make an argument. I don't know anything about fossil fuels, like I said. You can make arguments both ways. That's not my point. My point isn't the fossil fuels. My point is just be fucking logical. Mm-hmm. Convince me either way, but don't give me this fucking cartoon bullshit. Mm-hmm. I don't buy it. That's all I'm saying.
They can be fun though. I think everybody needs an outlet. I think everybody needs an outlet of lampooning.
You just said that. You just said. Was that your Facebook where you're like, I say without sarcasm that like cartoons are the biggest way to educate people for... Was that you? Or
no, it was not.
Okay.
I wish I could take credit. I wish I could take credit.
Yeah, they said that like cartoons are the best way to educate people about like racism and like I'm not even kidding or something.
Cartoons are the best.
Well, there's a lot of those flowing around and like they work pretty good, I think. I mean, to get a point across.
They could. Yeah. They could also work bad and get the wrong point across in the wrong way, and then people are miseducated. Cartoons, the simplification of a cartoon, I think, is a big problem because they take a big issue, they simplify it to a two panel Far Side piece,
right?
And then you're like, that's a hypocrite. There's so much more to it. If you want to care about an issue, you got to really care about an issue. I think you don't want to half-ass yourself into a serious topic because then you look like a fool.
Like this podcast.
Why don't we go with I gotta pee, but why don't we go with picks and you start with picks? You have picks, you said.
So you're not gonna hear my picks.
Well, I'll hear them. I'll just be right over here.
Okay.
All right. Well, this is really throwing me off. I really wanted Krasny to hear some of these picks.
Well, go to our cards picks then.
Let's just chat. He'll pee, we'll chat.
Yeah, we'll talk.
So how have you been, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Have you done any more Periscope jam sessions?
I haven't. No, I have not touched Periscope.
It was interesting.
Since that time.
Unfortunately, with Periscope, it seems like a cool idea. This app where you can basically live stream over your cell phone. Mm-hmm. I feel like when I have watched people's feeds, I feel like I'm watching webcams from like 1999. Mm-hmm. Like it's very grainy. The streams are low quality. The audio seemed fine, but that was the one frustrating thing with Periscope was, at least when I tuned in, and I don't know what it's based on, Wi-Fi, cell phone, or whatever. It's we demand like HD, and that was the one thing that was lacking. But it was fun. I remember you and a friend of ours had a little jam session on the piano and the bass, the upright bass or something.
No, he had a cello actually.
A cello,
and then I think he was using the spoons too. He's pretty good on the spoons.
Wow, that's.
Yeah, I haven't done that again since that. I should do it.
Have you done any more? You did an amateur or open mic comedy.
That was a long time ago. That was like 5-6 years ago. I haven't done nothing since.
Really?
Yeah, no more comedy. I kind of want to. I want to do it. I want to do a straight one though, where I'm actually like trying to make people laugh on purpose.
Are you? I feel like you have your main things. You're a big music guy. I feel like you almost dabble. You're a little bit experimental in a lot of things. Where like that comedy thing, like you just want to do it just to kind of see just kind of do this once, see how it went. Like, are you kind of that way? Were you?
Well, in that case, I had the idea for the bit, which was the bad comedian bit. I had that idea because I was actually at comedy open mic, and I thought, man, it'd be kind of funny if someone intentional bomb. So that was kind of why I just had that idea. Like that was.
I thought it was funny because I caught on right away, and I think your friends all knew that viewed it.
Yeah. Oh, it's funny reading the comments because people
thought
I like people who defend you. Is like you're struggling.
He's trying. Like,
he's trying to get better, and yeah, like
the guy's like, it's an act, and the other one's like, he should kill himself. What a faggot!
Well,
yeah,
it's really just classic YouTube comments,
awesome.
but it just brings it all.
You should
add
that set on the page.
I will. I'll put that on here.
I also thought it was funny because I found it funnier knowing going in that you're like that you're doing the thing, and this is before Zach Galifianakis and those guys kind of did that kind of the awkward comedy or the. Like, no, really, guys, like, I'm deadpan serious. Like, it was that where he kind of had people going. And I thought it was hilarious. Just,
Galifianakis is really actually, that's like his act.
Yeah.
That's like his whole thing.
You guys should check out Malone on this YouTube thing. He's just,
Yeah, check it out on the goddamn website.
All right, you're back. You ready?
I'm all back. I'm ready.
All right, you want to hear my picks?
Yeah, I do, absolutely.
Okay, pick number 1 is... So here, there's a little bit of a story. This is last week. There was a get-together, an old movie theater reunion. Remember, I used to work at a movie theater, and we hung out a lot, and Alex was there a lot of the times.
It closed down, didn't it?
It closed down years ago, but my old boss
ran it right into the ground.
Went nowhere. It got leveled over and turned into a Best Buy. But my old boss had a get-together for people who worked at the theater I was at and other ones that she had been at. So, anyways, we're at the comedy club. I order some chicken strips. Server comes over, drops the entire barbecue sauce right on my lap. So it's all over my jeans. I caught it right in between my legs. So the entire, I'm at 3-4 ounces of barbecue sauce all over everything. I was actually happy, and I'll tell you why. Because for the past over a year, I've kept an entire spare change of clothes in the trunk of my car.
Just in case.
And I was so freaking happy that I could use it. I was like, the guy, oh, I'm so sorry. I'm like, don't even worry about it. No problem at all. Just clean it up, wipe it off with napkins, go out, put on new pants, clean. I was happy that I did that. So that's my pick is keep, if you need something, keep some shit in your car. Keep some extra underwear, some pants, a shirt. It'll take up no space unless you're, unless you're moving around, tons and tons of stuff. It probably won't actually make an impact. And that time you need it, boy, will it come in handy. So that's kind of a pat on the back.
Boy Scout behavior there.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
That sounds great.
So I was actually happy that they did that.
Do you keep a pair of shorts and pants in the car?
In the summer, yes. And sandals and a swimsuit and a
switch
towel.
Wow.
And some toilet paper. And
you never know when you got to go for a swim.
If I'm coming home from somewhere and I'm like, hey, you want to go swimming? I got no suit. No, I got a suit. I got an extra one. Why not keep it in the car?
So we're in Minnesota, and I think it's funny because I don't think I've ever thought of that. Even though we all know in the wintertime to keep a blanket, you keep it make sure you have a stocking cap in the trunk. Make sure you have a flashlight. You make sure you have stuff because if your car gets stranded in a snowstorm or something, even outside the cities,
you could die.
You could freeze to death because you don't want your car running if you get if all of a sudden if snow starts covering the exhaust pipe, you can't be.
What if your car breaks?
Exactly.
What if it breaks down?
All that stuff happens. So we know to keep all these first these things, but I never thought about the summertime. That's a great idea. Or just people or just terrible waiters spilling on me. I go where Krasny recommends, so there aren't bad waiters, but.
Speaking of bad waiters, went to Kyoto today. Had some pretty bad service.
Is that the one down in Burnsville?
No, it's right here in Egan. Oh. It wasn't so bad, not notably bad, but certainly wouldn't call it good. Classic behavior.
I got one more pick.
Yeah.
It's cleaning, and the reason I've
never heard of this. What is this?
It's where you pick up your clutter and then you scrub down and make things so they're not dirty.
You undo. You
you undo all the fun you had when you leave your stuff. You undo it. But here's the point to the point of what my pick is. It's not just cleaning. Obviously, cleaning's fine. But here's what I was thinking. So you get a gym membership. People try to do some kind of physical activity. You get your steps in, whatever, all this kind of stuff. If you ever go to the gym but your house is dirty, then you're stupid. You should clean your house really, really thoroughly because you'll work up a sweat and you're actually doing physical activity, and then your house also gets clean. Then you go to the gym once your house is completely clean. That's like the realization I had. Like, you should not be going to the gym or like doing some other extraneous, like worthless, just run around the block. Like, why would you like clean your house really intensely? Like, you'll sweat your ass off, and then your house will also be clean. So that's what I'm thinking. So I hope I stick with this, and I hope this keeps my house clean, because I'm like, I go to the gym sometimes, or I go for a run, but like my house is like, I should be combining those into one thing, like two unpleasant things. Like, just do them at once.
It's a life hack.
Yeah, it's a life hack. Total
Classic life hack situation
total life
here.
hack.
I think you should help us all out by calculating the amount of calories you burn per hour, so that they can add that to the list of like all the different physical activities you do. And just
They have it. Look it up. I've seen.
You've seen it before?
Maybe not actually.
Hey,
I would guess it is.
Funny you said that. You know what I found out? Donating blood. I was like, when you donate blood, you give a liter of blood, right?
Sure.
Your body's got to burn a lot of calories remaking that blood.
Yeah, make more.
650 calories per blood donation you burn in rebuilding your blood cells.
Not to mention, you lose a liter of blood. That's got to be a couple pounds.
Well,
Huh?
you get that back. But.
That's a new fad diet. Got to lose weight in a week, donate blood twice.
One more fun fact kind of on this. So, like people like count calories, you watch calories, like whatever, this Crackers has 100. Do you know how they calculate calories?
Something about burning fuel.
They literally burn it, and you see how much heat comes out. So just keep that in mind. That's the kind of a measure.
Pretty weird, right?
I mean, it seems like a pretty blunt.
They don't
measurement.
literally burn it, though.
I think they do.
Like, they don't literally burn an Oreo.
Yeah,
they do.
Calorimeter. That's
not?
like a physical. That's like a science. I think they actually
They burn the raw materials, not the actual product.
No, they burn
I'm not sure. I would guess they'd burn the actual product to see what it is. Because that's the only way to see for sure how much energy is like locked up in this thing.
No shit.
I can make another.
Calorimeter is like a thing.
How do you burn orange juice?
Boil it. I don't know. I'm not.
What you're saying is you don't know shit about dick right now.
I'm saying I don't know all the specifics, but I do agree that that's the only way that makes sense.
I know that it's
when you use
how much energy I know they burn it because that's how much energy it gives off, but I'm not sure if they burn the actual thing.
I think they burn the actual thing.
How the fuck do you know?
It's a calorimeter.
It's in the Simpsons.
Calorimeter.
Maybe I'll Google it.
Yeah.
Maybe I fucking won't.
Homer goes back to high school to finish because he never graduated. He goes back when he's an adult, and one of the guys, it's like a remedial science, and the guy burns a donut. He does the process. He burns a donut to show how many calories.
And then what? How do you?
And Homer
what are you
freaks the fuck
capturing
out.
to get? Like, what's the number? How long it burns? How much smoke it makes? How big the fire is?
I think it's like how much the temperature of the water the thing is surrounded in raises, something like that. It's like a really specific way to see how much energy is locked up in something. Something.
It's
like
what
that. I don't know.
It's what they do. Don't question.
So
it is what they do.
When we're talking about how many calories a body burns, what does that mean then? How much of
it's how much
the
energy
food
is,
you've consumed is
it's how much
used?
energy, it's how much energy is expended.
Well, if you put someone in like a room and they're like running on a treadmill, and you measure their body temperature,
right,
and somehow you measure how much heat they're giving off, that's how many calories you burn. It's heat and calories is exactly the same unit. It's the exact same thing. So it's however much heat you give off, that's how many calories you burn, no matter what.
So if you have a wound,
you're burning calories.
You're burning calories and healing that wound. So that'd be a pretty sadistic diet.
Oh, God.
I don't know if it add up.
I don't think it's enough.
Hey, if don't need a liter of blood,
a giant wound, maybe it would.
Burn victims probably burn a lot of calories.
Or what about like that movie? Antiviral. What about you give yourself some nasty infection? Like you lose like.
Not even an nasty one.
You ever have the flu and you lose like
you just constantly
like,
not even an nasty one. You constantly give yourself a minor infection, so your body's just constantly fighting something off.
Your immune system.
So like you
get rad as fuck.
So your resting metabolic rate just boosts up.
Yeah.
You're fixing
that's the future, man.
Or just gene therapy.
Hart, you got some picks?
I have a pick.
Shoot it.
So I don't know how many Kickstarter things have you backed in your lifetime? You've backed a few.
7.
Did they all make it?
Yes. And I shot the angles too on our boy Wiley did a Kickstarter. You don't remember? Wiley made a Kickstarter?
Yeah, I after it was over, I logged into Facebook and I saw he like personally told me about it. And asked me, and I'm like,
I shot the angle on that because I didn't think he was going to make it. And I'm like, I get to be a great friend by contributing a lot of money, by giving a lot of money, but then it won't even make it, so I'll get all money back. But it did make it, so I had to actually Kickstart his product, which is fine. But I shot the angles on that. I'm like, I'll be a great friend and just throw a bunch of money over there. He made it, though. So.
Got a new Kickstarter for you to check out.
You got one!
Yeah, one for you to check out.
What is it?
You probably never heard of it. just went up. It's called AdSurper.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What an
It's called
interesting
AdSurper. And here's the idea. Here's the amazing idea behind it. So basically, like, there's billboards all around town, right?
Yep.
And you get the normal advertising and stuff like that. So, like, this is basically an art project to freak out squares. It's the classic, like, square freak out move, right?
Squares as in people.
As in real straight button up people who are, you know, whatever, right?
Yep.
So the idea behind this is to put art installments on billboards. And a lot of times they'll have a bit of shock value or a bit of the value that comes with, like, sometimes people do, like, what's the big bike ride they like to do every year, like the
naked ride,
naked ride, or like the underwear ride, or whatever they call it. So, like, people ride around, big bike ride, and people ride around their underwear, and people are shocked and stuff, and people talk about, like, well, it's freedom, and it's, you know, open your mind about things. So, like, this, like, people can avoid that. They don't see it very often. But if you're driving down the highway and you look at a billboard, like, you can't avoid it, no matter if you're a freewheeling hippie or if you're, you know, pastor at the, you know, First National Church, whatever. So basically what AdSurper serves to do is it gives people an outlet to put their art and their creative works on a billboard and have other people back these creative art projects, basically. And so what the goal is, basically, is you fund the project. The first thing that's going to go up is a picture of a guy. If you remember George Costanza from Seinfeld, when he does the photo shoot and he's in his underwear on the couch, basically, a guy and cats. And these are some great pictures if you look at the Kickstarter on AdSurper. So basically, it's a dude like reclining on his couch with cats, and he's basically nearly naked. It's very provocative. But basically, what they want to do is put that up on a billboard. So when people are driving down, they're driving in their commute in the morning, they get to see some creative art on their billboard. And what they're calling it is subvertisements. So, like, subversive advertisements, basically. And so what can happen after that, if you support the project, is then people can start creating their own subvertisements, and then people can donate to back those and fund different projects that they want to see go up on billboards and make it a new creative art space. Because a lot of people can avoid art right now. They don't have to go to the art fair. They don't have to go to the museum if they don't want to deal with art. But, like, this puts art back in the public space, puts it in their face, uses the mechanisms that are currently used for marketing and profiteering, and basically just shaking things up a little bit. I think it's a really cool idea.
So people are essentially paying money for a Kickstarter to remove ads and instead replace them with art.
Yep.
Of your choosing.
That costs $5,000. Meat Space ad blocker.
Meat Space ad blocker.
I think
it's better than just making them there. Now, what's interesting about it, I think, is that instead of just removing the ads, you're replacing ads with something that might be more offensive.
Well, how would you remove the ads?
Just buy white space on a billboard, or buy sky, so it just blends into the sky. You know what I mean? Like, removing the ads would be I think gone.
That's the end goal. The end goal of this is not for it just to be this particular gentleman who we're pretending not to know,
so
like, up on a billboard in his underwear. The idea is so that other people's artists can, like, get up. So I mean, it kind of is going to be advertising, like, somewhat.
Well, so it's art.
You know, it's putting something. It is art. It's not. Yeah.
It is art. But why does it have to be this guy with the cats?
I think it grabs attention.
Shocking. Yeah,
shock value.
It is kind of shocking.
Freaking out. I think freaking out squares. I think that's healthy. I think it's healthy to freak out squares.
There's certainly going to be some missed opportunities for donations from the content of the original picture.
I think you might be correct.
I don't know. This kind of stuff's hot. Beards, cats, weirdness,
yeah,
awkwardness. It's very hot right now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think there's.
It's both immature, but, like, has depth at the same time, and so that's what's intriguing to me. You know,
it's an interesting idea for sure to let people, essentially buy ad blocker that will, remove billboards, and I think that's interesting. And I'm actually surprised that it hasn't happened already. I think there's some wealthy artist could have already been doing this, and they haven't been. I think that's kind of a missed opportunity.
I think people would like to know, like, when's the next, especially the public. I wonder what the next billboard's going to be and where is it going to be, because I think it's going to, especially with people crowd backing, like, what artists put up and selecting what. I think it just means that the creative things that are going to get posted are going to be entertaining and fun.
Which ads do you find the most obnoxious? Like what medium? You know, like Twitter ads, billboards, TV ads,
I think
whatever, blah blah.
I would say porn pop-ups, internet porn pop-ups.
I mean, the ones
those are like logistically the most annoying to deal with because they try to hide how you close them. But they don't really I don't get pissed off when I see them. Like
music service streaming.
So you're saying like
ads
what like
Ooh, yeah,
what's
are my
annoying.
most annoying. Like when I'm listening to Spotify or whatever, and like the music stops and an ad plays instead. At a time when I'm not expecting, like on YouTube, that happens too. But I expect the ad at the beginning, so I can just skip it right away and then watch my video. On like Spotify, I keep getting ads in the middle of my songs, and get really fucking upset. Billboards are probably the least offensive ads that I could experience because I'm on that road anyway.
You should be watching the road too.
There's nothing there that would have been there that I wanted to look at if not for the ad.
Yeah, you think it's going to be like, you think they'd be liable if they distract drivers into like car accidents?
Not if ads aren't already.
I'm sure this has already been
true.
many lawsuits.
Like when you see the
no, I mean, there's been billboards
Yeah.
for how many years? I mean, I'm
Yeah.
sure there's been.
There's been a lot
of.
there was I think one lady got famous in California, in Los Angeles, because all she did was put a picture of herself and her name on there, and then everybody was like, "Who's this?" You know, I can't remember who it was, Chi-Chi, or who's this, whatever, and like she basically just became famous for nothing but people going like, "Who the heck is that on that billboard?"
Brilliant.
To the point where like, yeah, it was one of the first like kind of viral campaigns where it's just like people were so curious that all of a sudden everybody knew her because she's that lady in the billboard, like. Overnight, like people just instant fame. Like
There was one back when you worked in Uptown on the north side. There was that billboard for the promoting the Atlas Shrugged movie. Remember, it was like, "Who is John Galt?" That's all it said.
Yeah.
Right? Remember that? And I didn't know anything about it, but I looked it up, and that's how I learned about that thing. I never saw the movie. However, that was like similar. It was mysterious.
Clever ad.
Yeah, it was clever. It got me to care way
There's
more. than every
there's
other
room
ad.
for clever ads in every space for sure. Or room for art, possibly.
Maybe so.
I think we always need more art, and I think sometimes you do have to jam it down people's throat. And I'm not a big art. I mean, if I go to an art museum, I maybe see 2% of things that I say this is enjoyable to look at, and a lot of it I don't get. Or I don't, I'm not sophisticated in that way, but I still think we need more art.
I think I'm actually a little bit anti-art lately.
Why?
I don't like how it's like how some fuckface decides what is good art and what isn't. You know, like some like people, they have a gallery and it's like, this is art and then everything else is not. I think it's bullshit. I don't like the.
You don't like art criticism.
The industry.
You don't like criticism.
Well,
art criticism.
It's not even criticism. I don't like that. Like when you go to an art gallery, the art you see at that gallery isn't necessarily the best art available. It's just the art that was arbitrarily chosen by somebody to be in that gallery.
Yeah.
There's no way to quantify what is and isn't good.
No.
But at the same time, if somebody has been, I was in a gallery, then all of a sudden he's a real artist. And everybody else is not a real artist who has not made it. And by making it, it's just like convincing some fucking rich guy to put you in a gallery. I don't like it. I don't like that shit.
There's a lot of
I like art. I don't want to say that.
There's a lot of cronyism that gets involved. It's a huge networking.
I'm a big art
scam.
fan. I just don't like, when like you buy a famous paint, you buy an expensive painting.
Right.
I think that's 90% fucking bullshit.
But
that's just a painting.
I think those artists still are extremely talented. But what you're saying is that the method of selecting which artists that are supremely talented get to be rewarded for it is arbitrary.
Art is the biggest industry probably for sure.
Because I wouldn't knock people's skills. There's people that have a lot of skill, but yeah, the reward system is...
Price has nothing to do with quality.
Well, how do you judge quality? There's no way to judge quality.
That's exactly right. So
it's all
if a guy has an expensive art piece in his living room, you can buy a $5 art piece.
I have no clue. I have no.
Nobody will ever be able to identify it, and it might frankly be better.
It's like an inside. It's almost like an inside joke. If you know what it is,
right.
then you're in.
And then it gets even more ridiculous when you're already a famous artist. Then you can just like piss on a canvas, and all of a sudden that's $10,000 piece. You know what I mean? Like it's not even anything. You're famous. It's like if Shaquille O'Neal's underwear are worth a lot of money on eBay, in the same way that some fucking artist's diarrhea stain is worth the same amount as an artwork. It's bullshit. The whole thing is just pop culture nonsense. So I'm kind of bitter about it.
Well, I mean, what
That's their money,
you want
yeah.
to spend? You want to spend $130 million on some painting that? I mean, what? I mean, why?
Are you mad you missed
Why
out?
are you mad? Why are you mad about it? I mean, I
Yeah.
don't understand. Like any taste. I mean, any taste you have, like
I'm mad because
you want there to be some official ranking, like
No,
government ranking.
Because it's illogical. Because it's irrational.
I don't want there to be any ranking. I want. I don't know what I want. I just think art shows are bullshit, and I hate galleries,
Yeah.
and I hate art museums. I think everything that's on display is a crock of shit, essentially.
So what if we like?
When's the last time you've been to an art display, a gallery?
20 years.
Yeah. I mean,
So
you just go. You know, you pay like $5 to get in. You go look at a bunch of big variety stuff. Like, who cares? Like, why are you hating on it? Like, if some idiot wants to spend $100 million on something, like, so what? That's their money. Like,
Yeah, I feel like you got a poor defense on this one.
I just think you shouldn't be upset about it.
Right. Don't take it personally.
First off.
But it's shitty. I get it. It's dumb. It makes no sense, but it doesn't harm you in any way.
Just, if you
You
like...
should be more libertarian about this,
if
really.
there's
Let people
art-
do what they want
If
to
there's
do.
art you like,
Let people pay what they want to pay. Let the market decide what the price of art should be.
you should like... You know what? Here's what I want to know from the libertarians, which I'm no longer allowed to be. I've been exiled from
Why?
libertarian. My real libertarian, dare I call them fans.
Oh, is it because of your enthusiastic support for government surveillance and the police state?
I was actually my,
I think it was the baby tyrant.
my enthusiastic neuter all babies at birth.
Yeah. Eliminate the... Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
His eugenic program or something.
what is the libertarian free market answer to controlling pollution and waste?
Carbon credits.
What's a carbon credit?
It means if you pollute, you need the government. There's a price set for what pollution costs.
Wait a minute, that's not the libertarian.
I mean, they would never want government to do anything like that.
I thought the libertarian method is once people start coughing enough to get mad about it, they'll stop buying bad products.
that
that
is-
pollute.
No. Well,
that is
the market. Maybe not libertarian. The market solution,
Yeah.
which has been endorsed in the past by both parties and like has grand support, but falls through for many other reasons.
Okay.
Is sell carbon credits, as in the scheme that was put in place in the USA years and years and years ago. I believe it was by John McCain, Republican, and Russ Feingold, I want to say. Maybe I'm wrong. Democratic senator from Wisconsin.
Blast from the
They
past.
both came. There was the carbon credit program where the government said, okay, right now we're going to issue permits to emit whatever 100 billion tons of carbon, and it's going to go down over time. And the price is set by the market. So we're going to sell them at some initial rate, but whatever the market goes for. If you want to pay more to pollute, if you like run a fucking coal plant, no problem. You just have to buy this. And it's set up like that. Killed by various factors. This was killed. But this is what... this is the market solution to that.
I don't get it still. You are forced to pay the government like a tax for polluting?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, so I mean that's...
And at first you're issued the existing industries that pollute much, like coal or aluminum production or like blah blah. They first just get some based on their base level, but the point is it goes down over time, and that the fact that they become more scarce will, in theory, influence companies to try to invest in other things. I don't know if that's the libertarian solution. I'm sure you have many viewers who know about these things.
Yeah, maybe they know more.
I know that's the market solution.
I would
that
say
seems
that
to
would
make
be,
a lot of sense.
that would certainly be a government control solution, right?
I think
Partially, part of it is yes.
Yeah.
I think to simplify the libertarian thing is
It's a good idea.
Once your kid starts getting cancer, you might stop buying that product.
I think that
Well,
would
that's
be...
too late. That's ridiculous.
No, it is too late, but that's how the market works. It adjusts after once you figure out.
I
It's
mean,
bad.
I think that'd be the.
But
hard
until
libertarian line
your
is
kid gets
once
cancer,
people are bothered enough by pollution to make a change, then that change will happen on its own.
But if it's worth it to them, they'll keep doing. If the equation,
I mean,
if
it doesn't work.
I don't think.
If
I
they
don't
think,
think
"Ah,
that
I might-"
argument would be used by any serious. Or I mean,
they would
any
they would
non-nut
try they would
job,
they
I
would
think.
use a less
There was a guy on Rogan's podcast. I forgot his fucking name, but he was a libertarian, hardcore guy, like hardcore libertarian guy, and they were talking about fracking and how fracking is so harmful to the environment, and how if we went with the government leave everything out of it, how they control fracking because it destroys water supplies of whole towns downstream, and like it fucks up the environment real bad. where the towns they frack. And there was a documentary. You see the documentary where like the people who live around fracking sites, like their water's flammable and like all this nonsense. And if the government doesn't come in and stop that from happening, what in the market freely will control, when you want to buy this piece of land and frack on it, but that affects like a 10-mile radius around that plot of land, indirectly. Who's going to stop that? The free market's not going to do that because the people in the town can't do anything about it.
Yeah, people outside of town go, "Oh, no, my problem."
But the guy on the show, who's he's a famous, super rich, famous guy. He was saying like that the market will deal with that on its own, like leave it alone. And just let it just be handled.
Yeah. I think the fatal flaw there is that
he definitely didn't say the government should do something. That's absolutely not what he said.
To me, and I'm going to really simplify this. To me, it's basically saying jumping off a cliff. Basically, jumping off a cliff. If the market decided it wouldn't eliminate jumping off the cliff until it hit the ground. Like that's basically like until it realized that, hey, I'm about to die. Like that's what I don't get. Like there's so many things that are like you can get to a point where like if you just would have thought about it or looked ahead, you can see the problem. And some people just run to the point where they finally have to like until they're finally penalized for it. And sometimes those penalties are A, irreversible, and B, regrettable. People have a really hard time planning for the future. And I think that's one of the biggest flaws is assuming the market knows how to plan for the future, and it doesn't. And I think just because people keep smoking, even though it's gonna kill them eventually or take years off of life, people are gonna get cancer. People are young and indestructible, and they don't worry about that. And that's a flaw. Market isn't a rational being, even though people say it is rational. But I think instances like that where you make a deal with the devil early that comes back to bite you, that you will regret later, and you'll tell people, like you talk about the hypocrite, the smoker is telling other people not to smoke. Like those people will say, "Hey, don't do it," and the young people will say, "My choice," and so everybody keeps repeating the same error. It's never going to solve itself unless people start like really pushing things outside the market. But that's me. I don't think it's perfect in its purest form. I think it's useful, but that's why I'm not a pure libertarian.
To defend the market in the case of the example that I gave of the carbon credits system, the argument for doing that, as in set a cap on how many carbon credits are issued and then have it go down over time, is that the argument for it is that the purpose, the spirit of it is to reduce how much carbon is emitted.
Were companies clamoring for this though? Were they saying we need a way to? No,
I'm sure they hated it. I'm sure they didn't want it. But what I'm saying, the point is that the way where the market comes in is that the government doesn't decide which non-carbon solution is going to win. The government just decides carbon goes down, period. Who gives a shit how it happens? The market will decide how it happens because the credits are going down, and we know how much they're going down. So if solar is best, if hydropower is best, and blah, 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 the market will figure it out. What actually happened in many cases is there's specific government subsidies for solar, like $700 million to this, and like props up solar industries. People think that this is a bad idea because then the government is picking who is going to be the winner.
Yeah.
When the government is not in the business of deciding what the best non-carbon energy source is. The government should just be in the business of saying carbon's bad, let's limit it by this and then figure it out. So that is where the market comes in handy in that case. That's the argument for that. So that's how the market would win. And I think that's a very smart solution to this problem. Yeah. Unfortunately, that's not how it does.
I do like that solution a lot, actually.
Yeah. Australia had that. They had a carbon credit system. Their prime minister killed it like this year, actually.
Oh.
They had it going on for years, but he just killed it. Super conservative.
They're wacky, dumb
guy. Yeah. So it was a shame.
Have you made a pick? Did you do a pick there?
They're not important. I'll make them later. We're like
an anti-art pick.
We're so far over.
Well, you should have all your bonus.
I'm anti-art. All right, we have to go ahead and cut this up here.
After hours.
Thanks for joining us on the podcast. Make sure to follow everybody on Twitter. Make sure to subscribe and leave some comments and leave some dislikes.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Everything was great.
Leave some complete debate with Alex.
I'll see you next week. It's going to be a great time.
Call me a hypocrite.